place.
This isn't that hard.
Yeah.
Since it's so easy, let's actually present to you a couple of scenarios had you been born a black man in Alabama working that cotton plantation between the years 1820 and 1860. I also saw some people in your comment section saying free food and housing. That sounds like a great deal. So let's incorporate those things in as well. You may or may not get to start off your day with some breakfast, which would usually consist of cold cornbread or cornmeal mush, and then you have to get started. Since you're saying it's not that hard, an overseer is probably going to put you next to one of his fastest pickers, which the fastest pickers were spread out amongst the entire group in order to make sure a pace was set. The overseer would monitor who was not keeping up pace with the fastest pickers, and you receive lashings in order to speed up. Now remember, I saw you picking with one hand in the video. You need to be picking with two because you're responsible for both sides of your row. Now this document behind me is a data collection done by someone who visited small plantations, medium-sized, and large plantations, and kept up with the amount of pounds each person picked. Now, as I mentioned before, you said it's not that hard, so you're going to be expected to keep up with the fastest picker. If you look here on the second row, you see this particular person picked 1,680 pounds that week, averaging between about 250 pounds a day. That's what you're going to need to meet. Even if your personal quota, which was usually set by the overseer, wasn't 250 pounds exactly, you're still expected to keep pace with the fastest pickers, which if you're looking at this list of a plantation of about 60 enslaved people, the fastest people were picking over 1,000 pounds a week. Should you not meet the quota that was set before you, you would receive lashings in order to pay back the debt in the amount of pounds you missed in your quota. Now, on top of doing this in the hot sun, barely having any clothes because most folks were either naked or had the last little bit of salvaged clothing from when they were originally purchased at a slave market and then transported to their new plantation. And lashings weren't saved just for people who didn't meet their quota. In fact, on many plantations, through documentation by overseers, the fastest pickers were actually the ones who were beat and tortured the most because it pushed productivity forward. Remember, between 1790 and 1860, cotton production went up 400% with a daily percentage rise of about 2%. That's an average. And this is before the invention of the cotton gin. Now, there's no lunch breaks, and don't you dare get distracted by the person having their back lashed to shreds next to you because you need to make sure you keep working should you end up getting the whip. Carrying a wicker basket with those several hundred pounds of cotton on your back. And on Sundays, which might be your off day, you'd probably have a white pastor come and preach to you, not the story of Moses and how God asked him to free his people from enslavement, because that might encourage resistance, and that might condition you to believe that what's happening to you is wrong. Instead, you would hear biblical passages that would reinforce the idea that you were inferior and what the white person was doing to you was actually just, and they were helping you become more civilized because you were cursed by Cain.